The world of The Matrix follows the pattern of most massively multiplayer online games. You've got a big computer-generated world. Players can log in and out of it at will. They engage in combat, social interaction, crafting. There's all sorts of different activities that go on in The Matrix. And since The Matrix itself is a virtual world, it makes a great setting for an MMO. So we were not surprised, really, then, when Warner Brothers decided to bring this property to the massively multiplayer world and to get Monolith to help them out with it. Now, like Warcraft, The Matrix has an appeal so broad that it has great potential to draw in players who aren't normally MMO fans. But in order to do that, it's going to have really polished gameplay, or it's going to really have to innovate in some other area and stand out from the crowd of most massively multiplayer online games. Unfortunately, The Matrix really doesn't do that. The Matrix Online does have a few innovations and does try hard to sort of streamline some of the conventions of the genre, but it still suffers from some poor design decisions. To begin with, the game is really just a fantasy game in Matrix clothing. You've got offices instead of dungeons, you've got trench coats instead of chainmail, you have hackers instead of wizards. But there's pretty much a one-for-one analogy between the elements in this game and the elements that you're going to find in most other massively multiplayer online games. I will say that I really like the character growth system. It's very, very flexible. You can switch your skill systems in and out at will, providing that you have enough money and you have enough memory capacity to do it. So if you start the game as a hacker and you realize you don't really like hacking, you can try being a coder, or you can try being a more combat-oriented character. And that flexibility is really great. It's going to give the game a lot of longevity, because players are free to try out other classes whenever they want to. Now, even though there are a few different classes in the game, combat is going to be important for everybody. And since it's such a big part of the franchise, that's not really surprising and not really a criticism of the game. But if you are a crafter-oriented player, you're not going to find as much to do here in The Matrix Online. If you like combat, good news for you is there's a lot to do here. There's a lot of variety in the combat system. Now, you're going to get plenty of skills at each new level. This is really important for me. As you advance through the game, you need to feel like you're getting rewards at each new threshold, and The Matrix Online does a great job of that. Now, since we wrote the review, the development team has decided to sort of expand the experience system, so it's going to take a little bit longer to get to those rewards this time. A few players are upset about this. We haven't really had the opportunity to go back through and play through some of the early levels as new characters to see how much of an impact this has, but that's something to be aware of. Now, getting missions is very easy in The Matrix Online. You're going to have a cell phone with you, and you can just call up your contact. They'll give you a mission right away, and this eliminates a lot of the tedious running back and forth to your mission contacts to get new missions. The only problem is that the content is very repetitive. Pretty much all the missions here are exactly the same. You go to an apartment building or you go to an office, you beat the crap out of whoever you find there, you steal something from them, and then take it to a phone booth to upload it. You're going to find this repeated ad nauseum throughout The Matrix. Combat, though, is very fun. It's better than the rock, paper, scissors description that most people offer up when they talk about the combat here. There's a wide variety of moves here, so a combat-oriented character is going to have a lot of choices to make as they advance in level. The Interlock System is new, too. That's very cool. It means that you and your opponent are locked together in animation as they're fighting. So when you kick a guy in the nuts, you're really going to see him kick the guy in the nuts, and it's very, very satisfying. Much better than just swinging or punching at the air like you find in most other MMOs. The only problem with Interlock is that it makes it hard to get out of combat. If you find yourself on the losing end of a fight, you're actually going to have to perform a special move to get out of combat and run away. And that's sort of an added frustration. The camera is also very frustrating. This is one of the most wretched cameras we've ever seen in a massively multiplayer game. It's pretty good at showing you what's going on in combat, but if you want to change targets in combat or if you want to escape from combat, it's virtually impossible to do that without being disoriented for at least a few seconds while the camera moves around. One area where The Matrix Online scores very high is in feel and atmosphere. This is an undeniably authentic Matrix experience, from the visuals to the character you meet to the content in the game. So you're really going to feel like you're part of the Matrix. They're massive cities, very grimy, very gritty. The characters have a very dreamlike kind of quality to them. So it's a really, really great visual presentation that looks just like the movies. Now, the city you can explore all you want, but there's not really much drive to do that. In a lot of fantasy games, of course, there are new climates to explore, stunning vistas, things like this. But the Matrix is just building after building after building after building, and it does get very monotonous. Now, the story elements are just starting to kick in here, and this is where the Matrix Online could really set itself apart from the other MMOs. But we're going to have to see more about this before we can really say whether it's working or not. So far, it's very cool. We've been contacted by some in-game actors posing as some of the big characters in the game, and having them really talk to you in real time and respond to the things that you're saying is a massively, massively amazing thing. It really makes the game feel alive, and it really makes you feel like you're important. So that's probably where the Matrix Online is going to do the best, but we're going to need to see a lot more of that before we can determine whether or not it works. As it is right now, the Matrix Online is only for fans of the franchise, ardent fans even. People who just like MMOs are going to find that the same sort of stuff that they can get in the Matrix Online, they're going to be able to get in other games of this type.